San Francisco, 1967. As the country was fractured between war and peace, so too was the city. Celebrating love in the summer and besieged by a vicious serial killer who has evaded capture for years. One sweltering night amidst the neon lights of Market Street, the blood-chilling cry of a woman erupts from an alleyway. An unusual flash of light cuts her scream to an abrupt end. Yet this horrible crime goes entirely unnoticed. Her screams are muffled by the cacophony of city life. The odd flash of light in the alley, just another twinkle in the brilliant luminescence of Market Street. The death toll rises once more. In the morning, the papers print news of yet another victim. A young life taken by the square biz killer. At this point in time, there have been 7. Each found with perfectly square edges carved from their bodies, like a child's toy missing the square peg in its rightful place. This, again, makes 7 lives lost, and local law enforcement isn't any closer to executing justice. At the very least, they believe themselves to be on the right trail. One suspect has been apprehended and is currently being questioned at a local police precinct. Perhaps this marks the beginning of the end of the Square Biz killer's streak of terror.
I swear, man, I didn't do that to her.
A young voice disavows.
I fucked around, she broke up with me. End of story.
2 middle-aged detectives have a young Chicano chained to a desk in an interrogation room. It seems things don't look well for the young man. The lead detective struggles to make himself more imposing by leaning into the table, but his width keeps him from getting too close to the suspect to be intimidating enough. The table shifts away from him ever so slightly. The other detective simply stands there and snickers, nodding his head along.
What you just described was motive, hombre. So tell me something more believable.
In an upset to the detectives, the interrogation room door is flung wide open, crashing into the wall with a swift kick from a pair of leather boots.
Hey!
The yes man interjects.
That door's supposed to be locked. What the hell are you doing, punk?
2 individuals walk into the room with confidence. Their presence is commanding, despite being dressed as if they should be the ones handcuffed and questioned. A blonde-haired woman with a short bob and a sleeveless, button-up blouse is accompanied by a leather-clad ginger with a greased-up pompadour. They stand in contrast, with the woman's formal appearance punctuated by a set of flared slacks. The greaser, looking like he missed the mark by a decade, flashes his professional credentials in the form of a government badge.
Step down, pigs. We're with the fucking CIA.
Step down?
The fat detective launches himself from the table and confronts the interloper.
We're seconds from closing this case. You got a lot of nerve waltzing in here, breaking our doors and making those kinds of demands.
Yeah, and I'll break your nose next.
The young woman wedges herself in between the 2 barking dogs.
Pump the brakes, Calvin.
Despite being easily overlooked in favor of the rambunctious redhead, she asserts herself as an equally formidable foe. While flashing her badge, she directs an intense, smoky gaze to the detective standing in her way.
We're agents Jazmine Joplin and Calvin James from the CIA. Our presence here is just a formality to inform you that your investigation is over. But I suppose we can humor you a little. I propose a small questionnaire.
The fat detective is dumbstruck by Jazmine's suggestion. Jazmine continues, holding up a single finger.
I guess it's just one question, really. Give me a good answer and Calvin here won't collapse your face. Dig it? Why bring in a suspect associated with a victim 3 bodies ago when he's got no connection to any victim before or after? You've got 10 seconds.
Jazmine fans out both of her hands, crossing them in front of a smirk, lowering one finger for every second that passes. While the befuddled detectives scratch their heads, Calvin shifts and pulls out a flask of some unknown alcohol. He takes a swig, prompting the fat detective to object.
Hey, drinking on duty. I'll have your job for that. You think you can get away with...
Calvin finished his drink during the time the belligerent detective was arguing, interrupting the cop with a loud sigh. It becomes apparent that Calvin's eyes are glazed over. and that haze of alcohol seemingly spreads to his portly opponent as if by magic. The detective's words become slurred as he stumbles back to the table. Calvin, however, seems to be the type who can hold his liquor, his mannerisms slow but not sluggish, and though his words are slightly slurred, his vocabulary and wit remains intact.
Get away with what's the hell? Drug?
Oh yeah. You'd be a better ventriloquist than a cop talking out of both sides of your mouth like that, asshole. Better hurry up and give us an answer. Only got a few seconds left.
Jazmine indeed continued counting down and is only holding up one hand's worth of digits. The sloshed cop answers in a confused panic.
It's 'cause he's a fucking wetback.
The words simply flowed from his mouth, bypassing any filter the cop had previously. It was as if his calculating, cautious persona was dismantled. Instinctively, the fat detective threw his hands on top of his mouth, but it was far too late.
Why you protecting your mouth, pal?
Calvin wonders with a smirk.
Your nose is wide open.
And with that, the interrogation was over. Calvin, Jazmine, and the young Chicano being interrogated all walk out of the police station. While the young man heads off in one direction, Calvin and Jazmine move into their own vehicle, an unsuspecting ivory 65 Lincoln Continental. The two agents sit beside each other in the back seat, chauffeured to their next destination by an unseen driver. The silence is broken by Jazmine, getting to business and dressing down from her button-up blouse. In the middle of adapting her CIA skills to perform a backstage-esque quick change into an oddly hip dress, she poses an apparently inappropriate question.
So then, was that your classified secret in action?
You know the drill, Jazmine.
I know. I just never saw it in person till now.
You didn't see shit.
Calvin retorts, clearly uncomfortable with the conversation. He keeps his vacant gaze firmly pointed through the door window, minding Jazmine's privacy. Although Calvin may not even be that particularly interested in his partner's physical appearance or womanly features. More than that, Calvin certainly minds her incessant nosiness. Their vehicle passes by a street blocked off to traffic, beyond which are thousands of flower children flooding the neighborhood to attend a hippie rock concert in Strawberry Hill. With the agent's path blocked, the chauffeur takes an alternate route that leads them away from the festivities. A grimace comes upon Calvin's face.
You got hippies fucking in the street at noon, and a serial killer chopping them up at midnight. Even if we scared the pigs to get in line, their sheer fucking incompetence still gets in the way.
Calvin glances at his wristwatch, then returns his attention to Jazmine putting the finishing touches on her makeup. She snaps shut the clamshell makeup kit she was using and stows it in a thin-strapped purse. Striking a pose with her hand on her hip, she showcases both her vibrant new sunlight yellow outfit as well as her confidence.
Well, do I look ready for the front page? I've been working on my pose.
Calvin sighs and mutters to himself about their tardiness, completely ignoring his partner.
I guess this is what women call being fashionably late.
By now the sun has begun to set. The agents, in their unsuspecting transport, roll up to a sleek Art Deco skyscraper, home to the fashion magazine Maison. Dozens of paparazzi snap their exclusive photos of every person that walks into the doors. It's as though some extravagant gala waits within. Jazmine pauses, hesitating for a moment with her hand on the car door. She contemplates the morbid reality of her undercover mission, softly to herself.
Can you believe our killer is really somewhere in there?
The flash of a dozen cameras momentarily blinds Jazmine as she takes center stage on the red carpet leading into the ivory tower of Maison. Exuberant voices ring out in disharmonic unison, shouting praises at the newly christened supermodel.
The camera loves you. How excited are you to be on Maison's 10-year anniversary cover?
Jazmine gives the paparazzi what they want and strikes the pose she's been practicing. She first drops the sunglasses resting on her brow to block out the immense blinding lights. Finally, our model leans to one side and pops her hip, one hand placed firmly on her waist, with the other hanging like a scarf draped over the front of her shoulder.
I was born for this.
The crowd goes wild, with our camera flashes nearly as bright as the sun. However, Jazmine's personal bodyguard pushes her along.
We're already late to the party, JoJo.
Calvin mutters through clenched teeth.
We wouldn't want to miss running into our friend, would we?
Oh, cut me some slack, Calvin. It's just for one night. Let me enjoy the spotlight.
The guests of honor leave one stage for another, welcomed inside by attendants who lock the door securely behind them. The interior matches the Art Deco flair of the exterior, resembling the smoky lounge of a high-end hotel from days gone by. Clearly, the owner of the magazine's tastes are refined if not dated. Most of the lobby seems desolate, the party in question taking place on an apparently higher level. But despite stepping into the tower for respite, Jazmine hasn't escaped the eyes of adoration. The two undercover agents are met by a disheveled photographer in a Hawaiian shirt and a brown corduroy blazer. He snaps an entirely unaware Jazmine's photo.
Nice!
Oh!
Jazmine exclaims in shock. The slobbish photographer offers a short apology and introduces himself.
Sorry about that. I'm Kurt Duffy, one of the in-house photographers here at Maison. You can just call me Duffy. Just wanted to get one candid shot of the new girl. It's all staged from here, right?
Jazmine fights the urge to recoil from the intense scent of the musky cologne wafting from the pushy photographer. She nods with the slightest possible curtsy of acknowledgement.
Nice to meet you. JoJo, obviously.
Don't let me keep you.
Duffy waves himself away with a goodbye.
I'll be wandering around. You go up there and have fun, I guess.
Duffy saunters over to the watchmen guarding the door and strikes up a conversation, snatching a glass of whiskey on the rocks one of them was apparently holding for him. Following his advice, Jazmine and Calvin wander to the elevator and enter the lavish lift. The door shut behind them, gently guiding them to the celebrations above.
Is that our guy? Please tell me that's our guy.
Jazmine pleads.
Don't know yet. You understand the drill, right?
Of course I do. With what little clearance I've been graced with.
It's their stop. Jazmine strides out the elevator and into the gala, mingling with staff and blending into an unfamiliar crowd of hundreds, as if she knew them her entire life. This was Jazmine's talent as an agent, all the while keeping in mind her undercover mission of rooting out the square biz killer. Calvin, meanwhile, keeps out of sight, scoping the crowd as a wallflower while nursing a hard drink from his own personal flask. Jazmine recalls the full briefing Calvin gave to her on the long detour to the event. Her superior agent's words echo in her head during the course of her current task.
It's the 10th year anniversary of Maison's first publication,
Calvin explained.
We'll be having an all-hands-on-deck party, and we're in hot pursuit of the square biz killer. So far, every victim has been a model, either signed to the magazine or contracted by them at some point in their life. And Jazz, you're pretty much top to bottom the profile of his average victim. You'll be the bait, while I'm on the lookout for our killer.
But why are we even involved? Why not the FBI?
Jazmine recalls interjecting.
Because it involves the same classified shit you keep sticking your nose into. Government secrets are on the line, and it's possible the KGB are involved. Look, I'll know it when I see it, Jazmine. You just stick your neck out, and I'll stop the guillotine before the blade falls.
While on the floor of the party, Jazmine conspicuously glances around, occasionally looking back to a disgruntled Calvin who would rather she stay focused on playing her role as the ideal victim, rather than the conscientious agent she is.
That dumb bitch is looking more suspicious than the killer,
he mutters to himself. While Jazmine's behavior remains mostly in line with her role, her micro-expressions are still detectable by a trained eye. This behavior catches the attention of a voluptuous, raven-haired model with one such set of eyes. Downing the rest of her cocktail and excusing herself from an uninteresting conversation, the model slides next to Jazmine and catches her off guard.
Nervous.
The mysterious femme fatale wonders aloud in a strange accent.
You look a little nervous. Maybe a little.
Jazmine admits to cover her suspicious behavior.
I'm a little new to it all. The scale, I mean.
After a small pause while she processes the stranger's accent, she tries to pinpoint it, keeping her own misgivings clandestine. Disguising the question as genuine interest, Jazmine cleverly misplaces her conclusion.
Your accent, though. Hungarian? Close.
The woman admits with a laugh.
Check. Family fled through Austria to Italy. I'm Alexa Leifson. It's a pleasure. JoJo.
Jazmine responds while reaching out to shake Alexa's hand. However, Jazmine's new friend firmly grabs her outstretched olive branch and pulls her around the room like a little red wagon.
Come, let me introduce you to everyone at the magazine. Half of the people you see here are just suck-ups to Mr. Upman.
Alexa whisks Jazmine away to the back of the dining hall and begins pointing out specific partygoers.
Creeping around is Garrett Duffy, one of our photographers. You've probably already run into him.
True enough, the garish shutterbug could be seen wandering around the party floor, obsessively snapping candid pictures of exclusively female guests like some psychedelic Pygmalion. Alexa points to another figure, keeping his distance in the corner, fiddling sheepishly with his own camera. Despite being a tall man with striking blue eyes and a polka dot button-up, he went entirely unnoticed.
That's our other photographer, Weston Archer. He's sweet. Pretty much the opposite of Kurt. Keeps to himself and does his job.
Alexa continues her long-distance introductions, singling out from the crowd the likes of the eccentric fashion designer Theodore Carnaby, bubbly and dour models Sunny Cher and Eloise Margot, respectively, and the mousy Mina Moore, President Upman's personal secretary. All co-workers JoJo would come to know personally, Alexa assures.
It's that time!
An aged masculine voice belts out with authority. President of Maison, Ashton Upman, stands before a podium in the back of the auditorium-sized entertaining hall, lit cigar in hand, with the other tucked nonchalantly into his vest pocket. By now the crowd has thinned out a bit, only employees of Maison left in attendance.
The party's almost over. Now that all those ass-kissers are gone, it's just Maison left to celebrate Maison. I know we're short a few models who should be celebrating with us today, so it's tragically a little lonely. They paid the ultimate price for their beauty, and I'm proud to feature their last days of glory in our pages. We've all suffered for our work, but they, I'm sure, suffered the most. I wonder how brilliantly they shined at the end.
Ashton pauses to reflect on his choice of words, mostly speaking in a stream of consciousness, letting his thoughts and the point of his speech get away from him. The oddly morbid fashion mogul gets back on track.
But before we all go and do our own things, one last toast to them, and to the decennial anniversary of Issue 1.
Ashton leans over to Mina, standing beside him, taking her by surprise as she seems overwhelmed by the scope of the festivities.
Pour out the wine we were saving for this occasion. Oh, one for yourself too, Mina.
Several bottles of port are lined up on a lengthy table to be served to the remaining guests. As Upman continues with his egocentric ramblings, Mina pours countless glasses. At last, time for the toast. Upman holds aloft his own glass.
To Maison! Pain is beauty.
But something isn't right. Calvin has grown restless, waiting impatiently for their target to make some sort of move to out themselves. He panics to himself, thinking,
Was it the photographer the whole time? Duffy moved on and didn't focus the whole night on Jazmine. Something's wrong. Stand users are drawn to other stand users, so I should have been able to sniff him out. The party's almost over and...
Suddenly a thought crosses his mind. Calvin's eyes snap wide in revelation.
He knows. The son of a bitch knows we're onto him.
It's too late, however, as the crowd joins Calvin in a mad panic. What was once a scene of revelry turns into chaos. Glass hits the floor. The wine was tampered with, and whatever it was spiked with sends every guest who partook into a frenzy. Some of them wail in anguish, others flee from unseen fiends, supposedly fending for their lives by throwing plates and chairs at their invisible assailants. Jazmine begins feeling dizzy, struggling to keep herself together as she takes in heavy breaths. She stumbles into a table, catching herself before falling. However, something's odd about the hand she braced her fall with. Jazmine slowly lifts her right hand to her face, witnessing in full view how it was glowing in psychedelic light. Jazmine darts to the ladies' restroom and tries washing off the strange glow creeping up her arm, and for a moment it seems to work. She sighs in relief, but this celebration is cut short as the multicolored light returns to wrap around her arm, as if slowly being dipped in luminescent paint.
What the hell is going on?
Jazmine remarks in terror. She didn't expect her rhetorical question to be answered. A husky female voice calmly explains to Jazmine her predicament.
You're awakening to your stand.
The voice confirms. Alexa poses herself with arms crossed against the bathroom door, barring entry and exit, locking the two of them in the isolated room. Although initially confused by her presence and stoic demeanor, Jazmine realizes the reason for Alexa's presence.
KGB then?
She wonders out loud, running more water over her arm in a repeated frenzy to keep the encroaching glow at bay.
You're right on the money, JoJo. But it seems there's much you haven't been told by your so-called compatriots in the CIA. That glowing arm of yours is something called a stand. Think of it as some kind of phantom from your psyche. Psychic warfare? Both of our governments are experimenting with ways to utilize the power of stands for espionage. However, the United States has found a way to artificially activate stands by using an extremely potent hallucinogenic they call gypsy eyes. That's as far as we've uncovered.
These details strike a revelation in Jazmine's mind.
The wine! So it was you!
Alexa shakes her head.
Not me. And I'm willing to bet not your CIA. We're both looking for the same person. The square base killer uses the power of a stand to do his dirty deeds. Now it's like finding a needle in a haystack, as you would say.
Jazmine grits her teeth, frustrated at her vulnerable position as she faces the enemy of her country.
Why are you telling me all this?
Alexa taps a nearby mop with her boot, bracing it against the door behind her.
It's simple, my American friend.
She starts with a confident stride to the still panicking Jazmine.
You might not live past tonight.
Two ghostly figures come into focus behind Alexa, revealing themselves as spherical satellites with antennae floating about her. With a set of glowing robotic eyes trailing neon red lights in their wake, the twin satellites set their sights on Jazmine. Alexa calls her stand by name.
Private Eyes.
Having escaped the hysteria within the walls of Maison, Calvin sits in the same Lincoln Continental that had once driven the agents to their fateful destination. Parked in the middle of an empty street on an outlook, Calvin takes a CB radio receiver in hand and communicates to his apparent superiors. With an empty gaze staring out to the now abandoned Alcatraz Island sitting idly in the bay, Calvin punctuates his transmission with one final statement.
Yeah. Jazmine's been compromised.